Welcome to the Wimbo Worldwide F1 Podcast.
F1 content around the globe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wimbo Worldwide F1 Podcast, episode 13. And today I have as a guest a young lady from England. Her name is Charlotte, and she is a podcaster. Her podcast is called Starting from the Pits. There's not much I know about her so far, but we're all going to find out what the deal is in this podcast. Hiya, Charlotte. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So were you up early this morning to watch the sprint race?
Yeah, I tried to. I had every intention of waking up at like 3:30 to go and watch it at 4 o'clock, but the alarm went off and I was like, snooze, I can't deal with that today. But I watched the qualifying, so we're on it for that.
Yeah. That was, I suppose it's early enough for that as well, because it's an hour earlier in England.
Yeah, exactly.
So, talking about England, now, I've lived in England, in Liverpool.
Not far from me.
But I guess you're more from the Manchester area, is that right?
That's the one, yeah.
Are you from Manchester itself, or?
Not exactly. I'm probably about half an hour away, so it's not
because
too far.
my mother-in-law, who's from Northern Ireland, she moved to Greater Manchester, and she lived in a place called Walkden.
Okay.
Is that near you?
No,
No.
not really, no. I'm probably about 25 miles away, so it's not too bad.
But yeah, I recognize the accent.
Yeah.
You're mainly making podcasts and you're posting your content on TikTok as well. And I saw you have a YouTube account, but that's not very active so far.
No.
So tell me a little bit more about, what you're doing and what your goals are.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the podcast was the first initial outlet of what I wanted to create in terms of content. And then with that, obviously, people love a visual as well. So creating snippets from the podcast that I was creating was obviously then going on TikTok to promote it and also on Instagram. And they've built up quite a nice little community on there of people that are supportive and also just enjoy listening to the podcast. And then on YouTube, of course, like I said, people love a visual. So everything that I do kind of goes on there. It doesn't get that much love at the moment, but I'm hoping with more races that I get to go to, there'll be more like behind the scenes vlogs and things like that. So it will get more love soon.
Yeah. As with everything, it just needs time,
Exactly.
Now, what I have noticed is that getting big names doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get way more subscribers or followers.
No.
I did a podcast last year when my channel wasn't all that good yet with Tim Coronel, which is a Dutch rally driver and a TV pundit. He has like 900,000 followers on Twitter, and he posted the link of the podcast I made. So I thought, oh my God, this is going to get me a thousand subscribers and everybody's going to love me. But yeah, if the quality isn't that good, people, will click on it and then just, don't watch it. So... So that's one thing I've noticed about content creation. That the main thing is that the quality of your
Definitely.
of your content needs to be really good, and then the views will follow.
You need to be able to keep the people in there as well.
How did you get into F1?
So it was back in, I want to say 2015, 2016-ish, and my mum and dad were actually going to Silverstone to watch the Grand Prix there. And I was like, I've seen them watch it on weekends. I've kind of been in the room while they've been watching it, not really paid much attention to it, but I was like, well, maybe I'll be able to spot them on TV, stupidly. Like, I'm going to be able to see them as the cars are flying by. But I was like, okay, I'll tune in, maybe I'll be able to spot them. Obviously I didn't, but I ended up getting quite invested in the race. So I was like, okay, this is quite fun. And then when they came home, I was sort of like, right, I'm going to invest my time every Sunday, sit down with you guys. And at that point, I was kind of like, I was watching it, but I didn't really know what was going on as such. I was kind of roughly being able to guess the people's names down the side by their abbreviations. That's kind of what point we were at then. And then they turned around one day and they were like, oh, we're going to go to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Do you want to come with? And I was like, well, I'm not going to say no to that. So I then was like, I kind of need to know a bit more about what's going on if I'm going to go and watch it in real life. So I obviously then got to know everybody on the grid, all of the teams, and got to know more about the rules and stuff. And then it's kind of blossomed from there, really.
Yeah, well, one of the questions I have for you is if you're going to races at all. But yeah, we can tick that box. You went to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Was it Abu Dhabi 2015, 2016?
No, it was 2019, I think. So I had a bit of time between, but it was 2019. And yeah,
I suppose the championship was already wrapped up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton had already won.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good though. It was good to be in the environment and sort of soak up the atmosphere. Obviously, I do feel like, especially for Abu Dhabi, you don't quite get the same atmosphere that maybe something like Austin would have. It's a bit more relaxed and it felt a bit emptier. But I don't know whether at the time, obviously, it wasn't as big as it is now. So that sort of fan atmosphere wasn't quite there anyway. But it was still a great time. It was nice and warm, so I can't complain.
Well, I suppose if you go to Abu Dhabi and there's not a big hype about it, then you can actually follow the race.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I was at Zandvoort last year and Austria, and there was like 80, 90,000 people in orange running around drunk besides
Were you
me.
one of them? I was gonna say.
No, I don't drink, but
Okay.
I was wearing orange. I'll admit that.
Love that.
Every race probably has their qualities, and
Definitely.
okay. So, do you have a favorite driver and team?
I do. I am a Ferrari girl through and through.
Okay.
And Carlos Sainz is my favourite driver, actually. People seem to be quite shocked by that when I say that. But yeah, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, well, he's a great driver. I hope he
Showing
goes
his true
to.
colours this season. I love it.
I hope he goes to Red Bull next year.
Yep, me too. I agree.
That would be a nice lineup.
Definitely. And I think he would thrive in that environment as well.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I do silly season predictions every year, and
Okay.
I'm usually 25% right and 75% wrong.
It's so hard to predict anything, isn't it? It's so fast changing, and obviously Lewis going to Ferrari was not on my bingo card for this year.
No, especially because I like to believe people on face value. So if people say, "Oh, I'm going to finish my career at Mercedes," then I believe them.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Fernando Alonso about a month ago. He was talking to Sky about, that it was a pretty hard life doing 24 races a season, and that his private life was suffering. And I thought, he's sounding exactly like Vettel a year earlier. And he stepped out of Aston Martin. So I made a video saying Alonso is going to retire. But then it turns out that he was just playing mind games because he wanted a better contract.
I know, yeah, honestly.
So I suppose I'm a little naive as well.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
So what about yourself? Are you a little bit naive?
I am, but I also like to, I wouldn't say start rumours, but I also like to be a bit playful in where people could go.
Yeah. You don't want to say all the standard
Exactly, yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So let loose a few predictions about the silly season.
Oh.
So we've got Sainz in Red Bull. Yeah?
Here for that. I love that idea.
Okay, so who's going to take the second seat at Mercedes?
Second seat at Mercedes. I would like to see Esteban Ocon in there.
Okay. Yeah, I've said that as well. Because
Yeah.
both Russell and Ocon are really tall. So
That's
it's
a great
easier for the setup.
Yes, good point actually. I would like to see Mick back in Mercedes, but I do feel like he's doing really well in the World Endurance Championship, so I'm not sure whether he'd quite go back to that just yet. I don't think Kimi Antonelli is quite ready for that, to be honest. Yeah, I do think he needs a bit more time, but yeah.
Schumacher made himself really popular with the younger fans in those 2 years in Haas, where he drove cars in half, and we haven't seen much from him. But I'm surprised with that,
Yeah, I think it's more the meaning behind it for me. Like, I would just love for him to be successful at Formula One and kind of following his dad's footsteps. I'm not saying necessarily he needs to go and have so many world championships, but just a bit of success would be nice.
Yeah, at the minute he's not even the level of his uncle.
Well, yeah, true. Who else could we see elsewhere? Literally, when I start thinking about these things, I cannot remember a single driver or a single team.
You said something about Kimi Antonelli, that he's not ready yet. But
yeah, I feel like
my theory is that if you put a youngster in that team, while it's still, Mercedes is kind of struggling compared to 3-4 years ago, I think those two can grow together to a competitive form again. It doesn't matter if Kimi Antonelli starts the race at P18 or if it's Lewis Hamilton starting the race in P18. So that doesn't make a difference.
Good point, actually. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'll believe whoever takes that seat when I see it.
So, okay, that's Mercedes then. Who have we lower on the grid? McLaren is full up. Aston Martin is probably full up with Stroll and
Likely.
Alonso. Then what else? Let's say stake F1 team. Sauber.
Yeah. Are they going to Audi next year, or is it the year after?
Yeah, no, it's one more year of stake, and then 26 there'll be Audi.
I think that'll be interesting. I can see that lineup staying, to be honest, until it turns to Audi. I feel like when it goes to Audi, Bottas will retire. I just feel like he's got so much else going on in his personal life that he's kind of just a bit over it now. And obviously Audi want a German driver, I believe, in their team, so I don't know who would take that, to be honest. But yeah, I kind of see Bottas retiring when it goes to Audi.
Jolyon Palmer put Hulkenberg in the in the Audi seat, or the stake F1 team.
I can see that
for next season.
Yeah, I quite
his
like
whole
Hulkenberg.
silly season prediction. It wasn't too far fetched. Everything that he said.
Yeah, I do quite like Hulkenberg. I think he's a good driver. It's just Haas are a bit of a, I don't know, Haas are a team that sit funny with me, but yeah, I quite like Hulkenberg.
Right, and who's going to be beside him then?
I would say Joe, but I don't think it's going to be Joe. Beside him, I don't know, because I always thought that Carlos was going to go to Audi, but now the doors are open for Red Bull. I'm a bit lost as to who could go there, to be honest.
Yeah. See, I think, and I'm the same, you want Red Bull to have such a strong lineup. So that's why we're sort of hoping that he'll go there. But realistically, he'll probably go to stake and then have a shitty year there and then be ready for the works team of Audi.
Exactly, yeah. I do feel that is the most viable option, but we can dream, we can hope and pray.
Okay. Do you like Williams at all?
I do. I think they're quite a wholesome team. Obviously, we had a bit of a hiccup with Logan and his chassis and all that palaver. But having said that, I do feel like James Vowles is a great team principal. I feel like he has his heart is in the right place for every decision that he makes. And yeah, Logan, I'm on the fence with. Alex, obviously, I really like. He's come in and done wonders for that team. And like I said, I really like James as well. So I feel like they're a team that are heading in the right direction. Yeah.
Well, what I've noticed is that James Vowles became really popular because he's such a good talker. Yeah. But then after the Logan Sargent chassis thing and the bad results because they haven't scored any points yet. I've been reading tweets from people saying that James Vowles is nothing but a PR merchant.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's kind of starting. And like I like James Vowles, especially because I'm impressed with the way he can just switch on his ability to speak. Whereas me, you put a microphone in my face and it doesn't go so smoothly.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Like, he he is very good with his words, and I think he often says what a lot of people want to hear, especially the Williams fans. But having said that, obviously they want to keep their fan base, and a bigger fan base means bigger money and bigger sponsorships. So why wouldn't you say what you want them to hear?
Yeah. I suppose his background at Mercedes is helping him as well, because that's a very public relation team as well, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
So, so who do you think is going to replace Logan Sargent? Or do you think he's going to stay?
I think it'll go to the highest bidder. Whoever the next highest bidder will be. I don't know who that could be. I'll be honest, I'm not that up to scratch with my F2 drivers, but I think if there's an F2 driver that people think are performing somewhat well and they've got rich parents, then potentially that seat could go to them.
Okay, but you haven't slotted in Antonelli yet, so that may be a possibility.
That could be a possibility, and then
they'll just they'll get a discount on the engines, the Mercedes engines.
That's a good point. Yeah, potentially Antonelli. That could be a good place for him to start, maybe.
Or Joe brings a lot of money as well.
He does. I just don't see him as a Williams driver for some reason. It just doesn't sit right with me.
No. Well, let's see what happens. Do you think Albon's going to stay?
Yeah, I'd like to see Albon stay. I feel like he's found his home there at Williams, which is a shame because he should be in a higher up team. He is a great driver, but I feel like he's comfortable there now and the team trust him as well.
Yeah. It's just, he redeemed himself from the bad Red Bull period by knocking it out of the park at Williams.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that if he take the second Red Bull seat or the second Mercedes seat, then it could all start over again,
Yeah, I agree.
So I suppose it's better for him to become a Williams legend, the guy that scored a first podium for Williams in I don't know how many years.
Yeah, definitely.
And that could happen next year.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, I'd much rather see him stay at Williams and be successful there than move to a bigger team and it be the downfall of Alex Albon.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll stamp that one as well then. What about Haas? What do you think is going to happen at Haas?
Haas are the forgotten team in my mind now that Gunther's not there.
Well, that's true, but they're performing not too badly, scoring
that's
points.
That's very true. They are doing better. Are both seats up for renewal then?
Yeah.
Okay. Oof. Maybe Joe could go there. Joe could go to Haas.
Gene Haas would like that, a driver that brings 30 million.
Exactly. He's not a bad driver. He's not exceptional, but he's not a bad driver, which I think is what Haas is all about in my eyes. And second driver, who would that be? Maybe Ollie Behrman could make a point in Haas.
He's a Ferrari junior, and they often get slotted into Haas. So
yeah, I wouldn't like to see that, to be honest, because I do feel like Ollie has more potential than being in Haas. But same as Kimi, it could be his step into it and the way to get into the bigger teams. Well,
I have this theory that the really good drivers in a terrible team is actually not that good for them, because if you have like the slowest car, then it's very hard to show anything. And if you take too many risks in a unreliable car, as in grip wise and downforce wise, oversteer into understeer, and you keep crashing, then that's not good for your career,
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean.
And like Max Verstappen, he started in a half decent Toro Rosso car. And then very quickly he was put into that Red Bull seat and he won his first race. Charles Leclerc started in not too bad Sauber and then was promoted to Ferrari fairly quickly.
Yeah.
George Russell was at Williams for 3 years, which I thought was 2 years too long.
Yeah.
But to start at what Haas was like in 2021 for Mick Schumacher, that I don't think that really helped him.
No, I agree. And especially given his partner and all of the noise that was around that as well, I don't think it was necessarily the best start to his F1 career.
No, and then Gunther Steiner being such a dominant force in that team.
Yeah.
Everything he said and everything he done was promoted highly because it was such good TV.
Mhm.
But yeah, Haas is a much quieter team now with what do you call him? The Japanese team
I don't know
principal.
his name. We don't see as much of him, so we don't learn these things as much. But
I think his name is
he's really
something
good.
like Taka Anoe or something.
Okay.
Let me see. Let me look it up.
Okay. Fact
Haas
checkers.
team principal. Ayo Komatsu.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like him. He seems nice, to be fair, and maybe he's just the driving power and somebody kind of not trying to be the face of it that has need. He's just focusing on what the team need and
Yeah,
want.
and he's a very technical man.
Exactly.
So that's pretty good. So we really went off schedule here with our
That's
silly
okay.
season predictions, but that's the way I like it. Go with the flow.
Exactly.
So going to F1 races now. You've been to Abu Dhabi. Have you been to any other races since, or are you going to any this season?
Formula One, no, I haven't. I haven't had the pleasure of it yet. This season, I've not really looked at any, to be honest, because I've kind of broadened my horizons into supercar racing and obviously endurance racing and things like that, and it's so much more accessible. I just feel like I'd rather go to more races for less money than one race and blow out the budget on one of those. So yeah, I've been to Alton Park this year for the British GT Championship, and that was so much fun. I'm looking at going to like the World GT Challenge, maybe a bit of work, ELMS. So yeah, there's a big variety now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's smart. Especially if you want to get involved with more people in the business. Then I hear all the time that all the other formulas and racing classes are much easier to access.
Yeah, definitely. I've found that a lot of the people are so much more welcoming, more open to talking to you. Whereas I feel like Formula One can often be behind this wall that you can't get across unless you've jumped through 15 hoops. So yeah, definitely a lot more accessible.
What about Formula E? Do you like that?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to the Formula E next weekend in Monaco.
Oh, very nice.
So yeah, I completely forgot about that. So that's one that I'll be going to. Formula E, I do really enjoy it actually.
Are you staying in Monaco as well then?
Yes,
in a
we found
hotel.
a nice little apartment about 15 minutes away from the casino. So we've
But
struck
that's
gold
quite
with one.
expensive as well, isn't it?
Well, we thought so, but when we got the prices through, I think it was like just over £100 a night.
Oh, that's not too bad.
We're probably sleeping on a sofa bed, but it's a bed. I don't really care.
Yeah, no. And I suppose you'll probably not pick the fanciest restaurant to eat, and you're not going to be ordering bottles of champagne. So, suppose that's going to be.
Maybe. That's where all the fun is.
Yeah. So, so Formula E. So do you have any favorite teams there, or like, are you involved in? Are you following that closely?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Like I said, it's a full-time job to keep up with everything. But yeah, Formula E, I kind of got into it last year, went to go to London and watch it, and obviously Jake Dennis won while we were there, which was really cool to see. Always backing the Brits. I feel like a fraud if I don't. But I'm always here for Team Porsche. I love a Porsche. And I think they've got a really great lineup this year. Also, McLaren, they're a great team. It's really hard, I think, in Formula E. I think they're all great personalities. I think they've picked teams with drivers with good personalities. So you kind of want to back everybody. And the nice thing about Formula E is, like, I think this season, I think we've only had one driver have the same podium, be on the top step twice. So it's been very varied, which has been great. And yeah, I find it really hard to back a certain person in Formula E because they all just do their own thing.
Yeah. I follow a content creator on Instagram called James Coker.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know him.
You need to look him up. But yeah, he walks around the Formula E paddock in a blue tracksuit.
Oh wow.
Really old fashioned, and he just asks the people. He's more of a comedian,
Okay.
So he keeps asking these drivers the most silly questions. like there was this film out a couple of months ago called Saltburn.
Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah, and he just kept asking the drivers, so what did you think of Saltburn? And some of them hadn't seen it, and some of them were like, oh, no, I'll never watch it again.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you already know him. I am talking to him to get him on my podcast. And
Amazing.
Yeah, well, he's really busy, so...
Everyone's so busy, it's ridiculous.
Like I've sent out like 12 emails to quite big names, and some of them you see that the message is read, but you don't get a reply. And then from some of them you get a reply saying, "Oh man, I don't even have time for my own stuff, so I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And then some of them say, "Okay, we'll do it, but I don't have time this month or the next month." So I was glad you said yes so quickly, and that we're doing this in the right month as well.
Yeah, good.
Because you were really busy this month as well.
Yeah, I've only just come back so with my work, we went to Anglesey for a track day. So I've only just come back from there, and the drive home from that was hideous. It was meant to be like an hour and a half, and it took us like nearly 3 hours. So I'm still catching up on sleep from that, to be honest. But yeah, we're here, we're thriving.
Yeah, no, it's going really well. So your content. You've already explained that you're trying to mix it all up in all kinds of motorsport. Do you have any guests lined up?
Yeah, so I only have one left for this month, and then I've got some plans coming for the month of May, in terms of like a rebrand, a bit of a refresh in what the podcast is about, who's going to be involved, the look and feel of it as well. But I actually have, so this week just gone, as we're recording, I had Ben Barnacote on, Imsa GTV Pro Driver. And then next week I've got Tatiana Calderon, who is a sports car racer in Imsa as well, but she's pretty much done everything. She's been in, is it Super Formula she's raced in? She's been in F2. So she's got quite a collection of things on her CV, really. So she's great.
Yeah. I think a month ago you did a podcast with a famous person as well. Or was that Tatiana Calderon as well? No.
So who could it have been? I've done quite a few.
An American lady.
Oh yeah, she loves F1. Michaela. She's a content creator, obviously in the F1 space, but she does quite a lot with NASCAR. She did MotoGP a while ago, and IndyCar as well. So yeah, she's great. She's American, and she was really lovely.
Yeah. So after we finish this podcast, I'll have a list of people, content creators that you might get in touch with.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be great.
Usually if you ask somebody for a podcast, then they'll ask you back for their channel. So
yeah.
So you'll be hitting two birds in one stone,
Yeah, definitely.
You'll get a bit of advertising, and also you can make your own content.
Yeah, definitely.
So your goal is to make your podcast very popular, and then hopefully get a job into sports journalism.
That is the dream, really.
And do you have any education in journalism or?
Not at all, no. When I was looking at university courses about 3 years ago, 2019 when I was looking at university courses, I did actually have a look at sports journalism, but the idea of standing in front of the camera at that time terrified the life out of me. I was never somebody to be confident, talking in front of a camera, talking to people that I didn't know. That just wasn't me back then. So I actually went into sports science. So yeah, we're flipping kind of back to what I initially wanted. It just took me a while to be confident enough to do it. Yeah.
Well, you see, you're only 23, so you can switch for years to come, and you don't have any big responsibilities yet. So just go with the flow.
True.
I do hope that you'll make it, and I can say to people, see that girl who works for F1 TV now? She was on my podcast.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the dream isn't necessarily Formula One anymore. It was when I initially started, but World Endurance Championship, Imsa, ELMS, that would be the ultimate dream. I just love that side of racing. I think it's just incredible. So yeah.
See, the thing for me is, I've got a kind of addictive personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I like something, then I want all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that if I start getting involved in endurance racing or Formula E, then I'll dive into that. And I'm already spending like 30 hours a week on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I have a wife and kids and my own business. There's just not enough time.
No, I fully get that. And when I first started looking into endurance racing and stuff, I was trying to make my content cater for everyone. And I found that was impossible. And then when I found that there was I had a video that did really well on Instagram that was to do with Imsa, and I was like, okay, there's an audience for this. We can tap into this bit more then. And I've actually found that a lot of my listeners now are very much endurance and sports car enthusiasts. So that is kind of the way my content's heading. Obviously, I'll still touch on Formula One. It seems like it's the blood and the bones of all of my content where it came from. So I can't leave that behind. But
no.
Yeah, it's definitely heading into more of a niche in that sense.
Well, last week I did a video on Lance Stroll about what are we going to do with Lance Stroll. And I made a thumbnail with a picture of the Valkyrie, the car that was developed by Adrian Newey. Yeah. And that did really well. Or it shot up and then it just stopped. But at 4K views, that's a decent video for me. So, but it's probably because halfway through the video I start explaining about world endurance a little bit. And there's a lot of F1 fans that are not into that yet. I'd say that will come when Max Verstappen throws down his racing suit for Formula One and then puts on the helmet for endurance racing, because he's always said that he wanted to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I probably need to prepare for that.
Yeah, and I do think it helps that in WEC this year, obviously you've got like Jenson Button, who's in it. Seb's obviously tested the Porsche, and yeah, there's big names going towards it, and it's so much more sustainable as well for people who are into the sustainability, like Sebastian. It's just, there's so much about it that people don't know just yet, and it's just incredible. It's just so amazing. It's so innovative.
But I was just wondering, like, if you have the 12 hours of Daytona, one of the 3 big races, do people sit down and watch that for 12 hours in a row?
Yeah, no. So obviously that was the first race of the season, and I didn't watch the full 24, to be honest. I dipped in and out of it. It was the first one that I've watched, and yeah, the thing about the endurance racing is you don't have to commit to the full 24 or 12 hours or however long it is. It's nice because whatever you dip into, whenever you start watching it, there's always something going on, because there's so many different categories racing at the same time as each other. There's always an overtake happening. There's always a battle somewhere. And that's what I find so fascinating about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've got hypercars and GMT3. No, what do you call it?
So you've got your hypercar, you've got the LMPs.
Oh, LMP3. Yeah.
Le Mans prototypes, or then you've got obviously your GT cars, which are like your regular looking Porsches, BMWs, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, etc.
Yeah. See, I'm already sort of tickled now.
Do you know what's really cool about it, though, is the fact that when you're watching, obviously the hypercars are way out of anybody's league to even own one, but when you see like an M4 going around the track, you're kind of like, oh, I've seen something similar to that on the road, and you have another level of appreciation for it, because you're like, wow, they're out there, you know the cost and the rough estimate of how much something like that is. You have another level of appreciation of how much they're throwing it around the tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's something I noticed when I was at races in Austria, for instance, that the F3 and the F2 races were really exciting, because these cars are all pretty much the same. And then
Exactly.
I think it's the F3 cars are really noisy because their exhaust, they pop at certain turns.
Yeah.
And then the Porsche races were amazing as well because these guys, they bump into each other all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they're in each other's slipstream. There's no DRS. There's no anything to help overtake except, you know, good driving.
Literally, yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed that as well. But see, I'm more involved in the F1 because of the politics in and around, you know,
Yeah.
the paddock. You know, he said this and he said that, and he's going there and he's going there, and
Yeah.
you know, I like the banter as well.
Yeah.
I argue with Team LH all the time on Twitter. And then people say I'm toxic, but I never swear or never curse.
No, okay, fair
I
enough.
just, taunt people a bit. It's just a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
You're not very involved on Twitter, are you?
Twitter's kind of a forgotten one for me, to be honest. Since it went to Elon Musk, I'm just kind of like using it for promotional purposes only at this point. But yeah.
Well, it's a great way to build up an audience as well. You know?
Yeah, I suppose so. And obviously racing is very involved on Twitter. It just seemed, I think it's because I don't have it on my home screen on my phone. I kind of just put it to one side and it's just not in my face all the time. That's the only reason why I forget about it.
Yeah. Just what I've been recently doing is, you know, Twitter allows long videos to be posted on there as well now. So when everybody was saying that Carlos Sainz was underrated a couple of weeks ago after he won in Australia, I just popped on my video that I made 5 months earlier about Sainz being underrated.
Okay.
And then it gets another 1,000, 1,500 views. And then I always have, you know, in the text, I always say, if you like this content, click the link in my bio and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So it's another way to get your content out there. And I don't post new videos on Twitter because I don't want people watching it on Twitter and then not on my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel is monetized.
Yeah, definitely.
And my Twitter channel is not monetized yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, all this stuff that you need to know to be a content creator, you know.
It's a hard life.
Yeah, but it's so much fun.
I agree.
Right, let's go to the next topic. I've got written down the Chinese GP.
Yeah.
So you missed the sprint race this morning.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I believe so.
You didn't have time to watch it yet.
No,
because
I've
it was
not.
qualifying and then straight onto the podcast. So what did you think of qualifying then?
Qualifying was good. Obviously, a bit of a shock with Lewis being out in Q1.
So you say you support British drivers. How do you feel about Lewis Hamilton then?
I like Lewis, you know. I think I went through a phase when Max, in 2021, I went through a phase where I was supporting Max. I just wanted to see somebody else win a championship. And my mum and dad are very much team Lewis Hamilton, so I was like, I kind of want to be the person that's against them. I was just doing it to be facetious, to be honest. And then, yeah, come now. I've always liked him. I like the way he's very pushing the boundaries with his fashion sense. I'm very much a fashion girl, so here for that. I love the way he's just so not necessarily not driver focused, because he obviously is very focused on the racing, but I like the fact that he has a personality outside of racing as well. That being said, he can be a little bit preachy sometimes, I think. It does come across as a little bit like, ooh, there was a few years ago it felt a bit too much in my face, and that's when I was a bit like, okay, Max seems quite cool. But yeah, I feel like we've got a different Lewis this season. Now he knows he's going to Ferrari, it seems a bit more relaxed, back to the Lewis that I originally knew.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree in that sense. It's usually I get triggered a little bit by Lewis Hamilton, but I can usually brush that off. But then his fans, especially on Twitter, yeah, they.
I feel like you get passionate fans with anybody, to be fair. Even if you look at the intense Carlos fans, I think they can sometimes be a bit steady on.
Well, yeah, I see that too sometimes. You know, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz fans fighting each other.
I'm not.
It's usually girls though.
Yeah, I'm not really here for the drama. I'm here for the exciting racing and the politics within the racing, but I think that's why I don't really tend to get involved that much on Twitter, because I'm just scared it's going to hit the wrong audience and people are going to come for me in a very simple, small opinion. Like, I feel like people on Twitter can find the holes in everything.
I've had comments underneath my YouTube videos saying, "Oh, you're that bad guy that always moans about Lewis Hamilton." But yeah, there's a magic button on YouTube where you can hide a person from your channel.
Yeah.
So they don't get blocked and they can comment all they want. Just nobody's gonna read it.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I get that. But you see, with every hater, I gain 10 more subscribers. So
yeah, fair enough.
sometimes you need opinions that are out there, or you need to trigger people with a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
And that's how they get involved.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree.
And most people know that that it's just a bit of banter.
Yeah, exactly. As long as they know that, that's fine.
Yeah, Chinese GP. Lewis Hamilton starting P18. Was there any more shocking results in Q1?
Carlos spinning off. I think the way that they've managed to get that car back out, and he initially put it in P2, I was like, oh my God, this is why I support this man. And then obviously we had Charles and Oscar.
He's not scared at all, is he? It's not like, oh, I'll take it easy because I had an off. No.
Yeah, we're in his redemption era, and I'm here for it. This is him showing everybody, like, this is why you need me on your team. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's definitely been showing what he's worth. Lance Stroll out of Q2.
Yeah, it's not a big surprise.
No, it isn't. That's terrible, isn't it?
I love Lance. I will say this first and foremost. I love Lance. I appreciate, the work that his dad's put into him, and I think any other parent would do the same for their child given the opportunity. I just think his time is coming. Maybe we need to see him in the Valkyrie, get him in hypercar. In my opinion, that would be a great alternative for him. And obviously the Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich, he's in ELMS this season, so that could be their pairing for World Endurance Championship in my eyes. So yeah, I think his time is coming, unfortunately. But I really like him as a person. I think he's great. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, well, I like to see a bit of passion, and I suppose Lance Stroll is a bit tired of all the questions coming to him whether he should have a spot in F1, but he always looks so bored and just so unhappy. Yeah. And then the one time he shows passion, it's when he shoved his personal trainer and he chucked the steering wheel out of the car.
Yeah, we don't talk about that as Lance fans. We forget about those moments.
Well, it's nice to see he still has fans because...
Oh yeah, I'm still here for it.
The mutuals I have on Twitter, they all sort of hate him.
That's so interesting. Do you know what the thing is? I don't find that I hate anyone in particular. I get all of these people are here for a reason. Let's remember that. And they're all obviously very good at what they do. Yes, potentially there are people that can do it better, but it's just not their time yet. And we need to remember these people put their lives at risk every single weekend for our entertainment. So I don't really find that I hate anyone in particular. I appreciate everything that everybody brings to the table, whether that's entertainment, sponsorship, or just good racing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just that I sometimes get the feeling with Lance Stroll that it's more his father's dream to have him winning races, and that he's just there because he has to, and because his dad has invested so much in him, so he doesn't dare to say no to it.
Yeah, I get that.
And I wish on him that he could do what he actually really loves doing, and whether that's tennis or a different motorsport or go into business.
Yeah.
Like you'd hate to see him get an accident, and then everybody will say, what if he quit earlier?
Yeah, I get that. I think maybe it initially started off as his passion, and he obviously really wanted to get into this. because you can't get into Formula One without some form of drive, I don't think. I think just over the years, being torn down by journalists, fans saying he doesn't deserve a seat has potentially ruined the glimmer that's on Formula One for him.
Yeah, but it's just people compare him to a driver with no money that might be better, not making it. So
yeah, I agree.
Anyway, we can close the book on Lance Stroll. So up front, we have Max and we have Checo. Checo's doing really well this year as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he started his season off well last year, though, so it can all turn around still.
Well, that's true.
It depends if he's looking too much of a threat at Red Bull, I think. But yeah, I think Checo, I like Checo, give or take Checo. But yeah, he's doing well this season.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of talk about, Max Verstappen's teammates being rubbish and then Lewis Hamilton having much better teammates. Do you agree with all that, or?
I think it's tough because I think Red Bull have a lot to play for in terms of what Max's teammate does and how they perform. Obviously unconfirmed, but as a fan watching on, you can kind of get a gist of the fact that they're not going to be up to scratch as much as Max is. Whereas I think when, say, Valtteri was Lewis's teammate, Valtteri was very happy to play that second driver, and I think people get into a Red Bull seat and immediately want the wins and the championships, whereas Valtteri was very happy to be like, okay, I'll help out Lewis as much as I can. If I get a podium within that, then that's great as well. And I think that's kind of what Max needs from a second driver, which is also why I don't want Carlos to go there, but do want Carlos to go there at the same time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The second driver thing. Bottas wasn't really happy to be the wingman, but eventually he thought, a Mercedes where I can win races or not. I do feel that Bottas is a lot happier now.
Definitely.
With his Australian girlfriend and cycling, and
he's driving,
showing his butt everywhere.
Yeah.
See, personally, I think that you can't compare the teammates that Lewis Hamilton had in the same way that you can compare the teammates that Verstappen had, because they never had the same sort of equipment.
Yeah,
so
true.
People say Lewis Hamilton had a world champion teammate. Well, more than one. But, Carlos Sainz was a teammate of Max Verstappen, but he never had the Mercedes car underneath him, which Bottas had and Rosberg had. And who's to say that any of Max Verstappen's teammates wouldn't have been champion in the 2009 Braun car that Jenson Button won the championship in?
Yeah, very good point.
So, but yeah, those discussions, I seem to be on my own on that one most of the time.
No, I kind of get where you're coming from. It's hard to compare apples and pears.
I always say, do you know where Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button, when they were at McLaren in 2015, 2016, where they finished?
No.
Well, they finished 17th and 18th.
Okay.
And then people say, yeah, that's because the car was terrible.
Right.
The McLaren car. I say, okay, so you're saying that you need to have a really good car to become champion? And then, okay, well, Pierre Gasly never had the same equipment that Nico Rosberg had.
Yeah, I get you.
If you dunk on drivers for bad performances, then that's fine. But if you praise somebody for their performances, then you need to look at the situations as well.
Yeah, I get that.
But definitely. I'll probably never win those discussions with the people that don't want to admit anything. So let's go into the rest of the 2024 season. Do you have any predictions of where people are going to finish the end of the season?
I think.
Let's start at the top.
Yeah, I think we're quite confident in the fact that Max is going to win this season again, and Red Bull will be up there as well. I think the rest of the grid will be quite a mix-up, to be honest, because we're seeing the McLarens are doing well. Obviously, the Ferraris are doing well as well, and I don't think we can quite throw Mercedes in the mix just yet, but they could potentially bring some upgrades that could help them out. I think Aston Martin have a chance with Alonso. And yeah, it's all to play for, I think, from first place down, really. It seems quite an open season this season, apart from Max. So yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah, it is. The fight for P2 and P3 in the standings is way more exciting than P1 because the way it's going, that's going to be Red Bull. Mm-hmm. So far, Ferrari have been, they've been the second quickest team, mm-hmm. and they've got a great lineup as well.
I agree.
And then P3 would be McLaren with what they've showed so far, but they started 23 terribly, and then they got really good. If they can make that jump again this season,
amazing.
Then we could even see race wins. Maybe.
Yeah, I'd love to see Lando win a race finally.
Yeah, I know, because that nickname, Lando No Wins, it's not nice.
I've not heard of that. That's savage.
Have you never heard that? No.
No.
Ah.
Wow. Yeah, I just need it for his mental well-being.
Yeah. So I always keep saying, it's like waiting on a bus. You know, waiting for a Lando Norris win. For hours, no buses arrive, and then 2 at the same time.
Yeah. I agree.
There's going to be a sprint weekend where Norris wins the sprint and the race, or he's going to win 2 races in a row.
That would be nice.
So, any more predictions? You know, anything you want to let loose?
This is a bit of a rogue one, but I predicted at the start of the season that Yuki Tsunoda's going to get a podium, and I kind of still stand by that. Don't know where he's going to get it, but I think that will be a nice podium to have. I'd just like to see Yuki on a podium, I think.
Well, see, in previous years, you'd sometimes have these ridiculous crashes, and that would mix up the grid completely. Exactly. You know, like in Hungary 2021, Ocon won a race because Valtteri Bottas went bowling. Mm-hmm. And then a year prior to that, I think there was a safety car that just messed up a lot of drivers in front, and Pierre Gasly was in front in his Alpha Tauri. Yeah. And he's stuck. He's stuck to the P1. That hasn't happened in 2022 and 23.
No.
So we need that to happen again, something like that.
Yeah, and I'd like it to play into Yuki's favour. I just feel like I just really like Yuki. I think I don't know, I can relate to him on a spiritual level.
Because you like food?
Yeah, and also, I don't know. I just relate to him. I just get it. Whatever Yuki says, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I understood Japanese, because I think I think he could be a lot funnier if he spoke in his own language. He struggles with English. You know?
Yeah, I think sometimes what he says can get caught in a translation barrier, and maybe it doesn't mean to come across as aggressively as it does. But I think that's why I love him. He's just so open about what he says, and it's like, fair enough.
I remember in his first year, and the news came out that he was getting a second year, and people asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I was quite surprised because I cost the team a lot of money last year."
Yeah. He's just so honest, and I think that's what I like about him. He's just so honest about everything.
Yeah, Yuki's a legend.
He is a legend. I would also like to see Liam Lawson back in that AlphaTauri seat.
Yeah, but then we need to drop Daniel Ricciardo.
Well, Daniel, I used to be a huge fan of. You know, he was like the joker of the grid. It was all fun and games, but something about this season, I feel like he's a bit entitled. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You know, asking for a completely new floor because this wasn't working, and you know, the thing is, people want him to do well. So when he got that shot at the seat again, everybody was expecting miracles straight away.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think he came into this almost expecting to then jump into that Red Bull at some point, and that's where that sense of entitlement comes in for me. I think it just kind of feels like he's just waiting to be the next person in that Red Bull, when it's like, hold on, you're not performing amazingly, let's calm down a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what the thing also is, like, Dr. Helmut Marko is the advisor for Red Bull, and he's sort of the guy that fills in all the seats. But he's in a war with Christian Horner. So you see decisions being made about drivers. Like the drivers are sort of playpins to them.
Yeah.
Chess pieces to see who's boss.
Yeah.
Like
True.
Helmut Marko this week said that he made an offer on Sainz, but there was a huge offer from Audi that he couldn't match. And then they asked Christian Horner about that, and he says, no, that hasn't been discussed at all, and it's not fair to talk about these big deals coming out.
Yeah.
So they're definitely. So, and I feel that Checo and Ricciardo are from the Horner camp, and then the young drivers and the Red Bull juniors, which Sainz is one of them. Well, used to be one of them, is Helmut Marko's department.
Right, got you. Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all develops.
Definitely.
Have you followed that all closely, the Red Bull internal war?
Yes and no. I try and... I don't know, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you don't want to be speculating about something that you don't really know that much information about. And I kind of feel a bit bad from obviously, speaking about the woman and, her situation. It kind of feels like if that was me, I wouldn't want people to be speaking about it in the way that some people were. So, yes and no. Like, obviously, it was a big shock when all the news broke out and things like that. And like I said, I think somebody needs to tell Helmut Marko to sit down sometimes. But yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
Do you want to hear my opinion on it?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, Dietrich Mateschitz died. I'll do the quick version, yeah?
Okay.
Dietrich Mateschitz died. That opened up a gap in the Red Bull structure.
Right.
I mean, the top business structure. Christian Horner saw that gap, and he wants to move up.
Right.
But there's one person in his way, and that's Helmut Marko. With his advisory role, he's like in between Red Bull and Red Bull Racing.
Right.
So when Helmut Marko said a few silly things about Checo Perez, Horner and his political side, they blew that up in a way to get rid of Helmut Marko.
Right.
Now, Max Verstappen is camp Helmut Marko because they gave him the chance and they're very loyal. So when it became clear into the structure of Red Bull that Horner wanted to move himself up, they tried to peg him down a bit.
Right.
So there's this woman that Christian Horner worked with, and they probably riled her up to file a complaint in a way to get rid of Horner. That's the sort of war that's being played in the background, political war.
Wow.
So the whole Christian Horner and accusation thing is like a sideline of the actual thing that's going on at Red Bull. And what you noticed is that, Max Verstappen couldn't speak freely, but his father could.
Yeah.
Then they have links with a Dutch newspaper, the Telegraaf. So every time Christian Horner did something, the reply came through that newspaper.
Right. Wow.
And yeah, now you hear small stories in the background. It's pretty much pushed to the background. The latest I heard was that the woman that filed the accusations or filed the complaint is feeling very lonely because she's not allowed to talk about it, and she misses her work because she's sort of dismissed with pay until the next thing. Until the next trial comes up. Wow,
that's interesting. I've never heard that side of it before, but yeah, wow.
Yeah, well, I usually watch every video that the race makes, and they made a couple of videos about it, and then I was quite involved in it all.
Wow.
So at the moment, there's a bit of a truce, because Max Verstappen said, "I want to work in a peaceful and quiet environment." And I want to win my races, and I want to win championships. So for now, I think for this season and the next season, it's going to be all okay. And then 2026, maybe Max will have a look out on who nails the regulations in the new set of regulations, and then he might try to join that team.
Wow. Well.
So that's a little bit more silly.
A bit more background.
A bit more silly season prediction for 26.
Flipping heck.
Okay. Hey, Alpine. Before we close off, what do you think is going to happen with Alpine?
They're going to continue to stay stagnant and not go very far. Pierre obviously got into Q2 today, which is the first time this season. But I don't know if you saw recently, I got to speak to one of the business analysts at Alpine F1 on my podcast, and she basically said, I don't think they're planning on bringing any upgrades I think it was for the first 6 races or something like that. I just feel really bad for them this season, to be honest. I quite like the idea of them two being together, an all-French lineup in a French team. The boys grew up together. I was kind of rooting for this kind of fairy tale ending for them, to be honest. But it just feels like it's kind of like, oh, now what?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm quite a positive person, and I've made all these bets that Alpine is going to find some pace this season with more upgrades, because they've already hit ground zero. You know, they already hit their lowest point. That's true. It's all upwards from now on. Yeah. A few of the most toxic people at Alpine, they've left. Yeah, I and there's all new people that came in and a new structure. Yeah, true. I in my predictions, I have them P8 at the end of the season. Better than P10. Better than P10. Yeah, but I made my predictions before the testing. Oh, okay, fair enough. That's my excuse. Yeah, no, I would like to see them perform better. I really like Esteban Ocon. Pierre I like as well, but I just really like Esteban. He liked my post the other day, so I've got a soft spot in my heart for him now. So, yeah. That's nice. Yeah, it was nice of him. I've never had a like from any F1 driver. It was because it was a post with one of the drivers that he was brought up with. They raced together in France when they were younger. So I collabed with him on a post, and he obviously still follows him. So he liked the post for me. Made my day. Nice. Maybe you can have him on your podcast. I've reached out, don't you worry. So how do you feel about reaching out and not getting any replies or... I mean, the podcast is 1 year old now. It's very new still. I'm fine with it. The worst people can say is no, so I don't really mind. Yeah, I'm the same. And it'll come eventually. If it's meant to be, it'll come. I'm very much in a everything happens for a reason kind of mindset. And I mean, the people that I'm getting on now, like Tatiana, she's a huge deal for me. She's got almost 300,000 followers on Instagram. She's an icon in the motorsport world for me. I'd rather have somebody like that on and have a genuine conversation with them than have a Formula One driver on who is just there because they feel like they have to be. Yeah, that's true. So I'd rather have the quality rather than the name. Yeah. And, one thing usually leads to another. Exactly. You know? The bigger the names that you have on, the more people you can have on. For example, like Ben Barnicoat this week, he heard John Hindhoff give me a shout out over the commentary, which was insane, by the way, for Imsa at Sebring, and Ben actually won that weekend. So it was only via that Ben then found me on LinkedIn, engaged with a few of my posts, and then I reached out to him. So it's through connections. It's almost like when you trade in things, you try and trade it for the next best thing, and before you know it, you've got a car. I don't know, something stupid like that. So yeah. Yeah, it's all about the network, and I'm happy to be involved in your network. And I hope you're in mine now as well. Yeah, definitely, yeah. And you can always reach out for anything at all. Absolutely. I think this was a nice podcast so far. Yeah, it's been great. Any final thoughts? To stick with, what do you call him, Matty from WTF1? Final thoughts? Final thoughts are that everybody should expand the horizons and go and watch some endurance racing at least once this season. Whether that's Imsa, World Endurance Championship, ELMS, go and watch it. Just sit down for an hour, watch some racing. So where can I watch Le Mans then? Is it on YouTube? So
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. So this is the great thing. Imsa is all on YouTube for free, streamed. I will pitch in actually an excellent app that it will change your life, especially if you're trying to keep up with loads of different racing. It's called the Racing Line app.
All right.
Yeah, get on it. Honestly, it's great.
Racing Line app.
Yeah, and basically on that app, you can select all of the series that you're interested in watching, and it will show the timetable in your time zone of all of these races, and it will give you notifications. Maybe you can choose how far in advance it wants to give you notifications, and it'll give you a notification of when each session's starting, when each race is starting, and then if you click on it, it'll also show you where it is being streamed, whether you need to pay for it, whether it's free, where you can find it. So that has changed my life.
See, one of the content creators I follow is Blake Hinsey.
Okay.
You know, from Break F1.
Right, okay.
You don't know him?
No.
Okay, well, he used to be an engineer for Red Bull.
Okay.
And him and another ex-employee from Red Bull, they started a podcast and they started streaming on Twitch.
Okay.
I think it's called the Engine Braking Podcast.
Okay.
But anyway, Blake Hinsey started working for an Imsa team as an engineer again.
Amazing.
So yeah, you see him on Autosport.
Okay, yeah.
On the YouTube channel, he did a video last week about the technology of. He's an American guy with glasses.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I like him. So just for him, I'd like to see his team do well.
Which team is he in? Do you know?
No, I need to Google that as well. Do you want me to Google it? I'll Google it.
Sure, go for it.
Lamborghini.
Oh, okay. Nice. Love the Lamborghini hypercar. Looks really cool.
Okay, so let me go back to the stream. SC63 LMDH.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Nice.
Break F1 is working for Lamborghini.
Yeah.
The SC63 LMDH car.
Yeah.
So that's the team I'm going to be rooting for.
Yeah, I think it's Lamborghini's first season as well, so that'd be great for them. I think they're performing well. The rookies this year, there's quite a few. I think BMW are, Lamborghini are, Alpine are rookies as well. So there's quite a few people making their way into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So where can we find you? Where do you want us to subscribe?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Starting From The Pits, YouTube again at Starting From The Pits, Spotify, Starting From The Pits, basically anywhere you can stream a podcast, I'm there. And then on Twitter, I think it's SFTP podcast _ maybe.
That's where I found you.
It's somewhere like that. So yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere you can find me. Threads as well.
What I'm going to do on YouTube in the description, I'm going to post all the links. Just going to post all the links.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy today.
Yeah.
And I hope that you make all your dreams come true.
Fingers crossed. Thank
Okay.
you very much. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.